draw me close to you. Never let me go. I lay it all down again to hear you say that I'm your friend. Oh, you are my desire. No one else will do. No one else will do. 'Cause nothing else can take your place. I wanna feel the warmth of your embrace. Oh, help me find my way. Bring me back to you. Oh, you're all I want. And you're all I've ever needed. You're all I want. Help me know you are near. Oh, you're all I want. Help me know you are near. I'm giving you my heart again. I know you'll be a faithful friend. I know I've done wrong to you, but your love will get me through. Oh, you're all I want. And you're all I've ever needed. You're all I want. Help me know you are near. No one else will do. You're all I want. Yes, and you're all I've ever needed. And you're all I want. Help me know you are near. Help me know you are near. Oh yes, help me know you are near. I'm asking you to help. I'm asking you, Lord, help me know you are near. Help me know that you are near. Help me know you are near. Oh yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, I tell them yeah. Father will provide, yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. Jesus will supply. Good Lord. Father will provide, yeah. But Jesus will provide. Jesus will provide. Hey, I let me cover them empty. Jesus will provide. In the presence of my enemy, Jesus will provide. Recession in the country, Jesus will provide. So when me don't have nothing, me no worry. Jesus will always provide for me. Jesus will provide. Jesus will provide. And when me cover them empty, Jesus will provide. Come on, Jesus will provide. I say Jesus will provide. And when me cover them empty, Jesus will provide. He better than kiss and quail up. He keep on putting bread on my table. Lindos and Freddy, them not ready. Jesus Christ always got me. Yeah. And he's my chief baker. So my bread basket always run over. So blessings overflow, overflow, overflow. Now I know, now I know, now I know that Jesus will provide. Jesus will provide. And when we cover them empty, Jesus will provide.
Good night, everyone, and welcome to yet another series of Sit, Sip, and Chats with Queen Esther's Ministries, Trinidad and Tobago. My name is Esther Purvidesi, and I'm going to be your host tonight as we continue to discuss real issues, real challenges that real people go through right here in Trinidad and Tobago and beyond. We want to take this opportunity to say good night to all our viewers, both locally and internationally. And we want to say thank you for joining us again on another Friday evening and for being part of making Sit, Sip, and Chat a huge success. So tonight, as we dive into our second episode, we're having no other than Mr. Carlyle Holder with us. He's a mentor. He's the author of the book, Can Anything Good Come Out of Prison? He's the president of Carlye Holders Ministries. And just before we bring him in with us, we're going to preview his flyer and a short video expressing his excitement to be here with us tonight. So stay tuned.
Greetings. My name is Carlye Holder, President and CEO of Carlye Holder Ministries. I am excited to support the work of Queen Esther Ministry and their work to support and help those less fortunate and vulnerable. Please join us next Friday, May the 28th, for a sit, sip, and chat as we discuss issues and solutions to make a difference and be a beacon of hope and inspiration for those that are marginalized and less fortunate. I'm excited to see you next Friday, so please join us to support this great ministry work. God bless, and we'll see you soon.
So as we take this opportunity to welcome no other than Mr. Carlye Holder, he's going to be joining us live as we discuss continued challenges that persons face both in Trinidad and Tobago and beyond. So Mr. Carlye, pleasant good night to you. It is an exciting, humbling experience to have you join us tonight. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful, Esther, and I'm so excited about the work that you're doing and to be part of sharing the message of hope and inspiration and just excited, having been to Trinidad because of the pandemic. This is a great opportunity for us to spread the word because I can imagine the needs are even greater during these times.
It is because, as you would imagine, it's not just Trinidad and Tobago facing the pandemic. It's a worldwide pandemic, and the needs now, yes, they are greater both locally and internationally, and it is more challenging because Trinidad and Tobago is presently in another lockdown and a state of emergency, which has been extended for a period of 3 months. But how are things, before we go in directly into the issue at hand and our main discussion, how are things where you are at presently?
Well, I am based out right outside of Orlando, Florida. And as you are fully aware, America, the cases are declining. And I think that's predominantly because of folks being afforded the opportunity to be vaccinated. So we are grateful for that, but then we are concerned about those places that continue to see a rise in the number of cases and the number of deaths, like we're seeing in Trinidad, and having, being born in Trinidad, I'm always mindful of all the things that are happening, and just want to continue to pray for the people there as we find solutions, to break this dreaded pandemic.
Yeah, I don't think we would overcome it without prayer. And prayer is something vital that everybody needs right now. So maybe we'll spend a few minutes later on and pray, not just for those in Trinidad and Tobago, but those where you are and throughout the rest of the world. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, again, we want to take this opportunity to say good evening to all our viewers. I see I have my Pastor Love on with us. Good night, Pastor Ramkisoon. Good night to Simone Andel. And good night to Mr. Krishna Videsi. So last week, I had my brother, Krishna Videsi, live with us as we discussed the work that he does through his NGO, which is the National Alliance of Faith and Justice. And he spoke a lot about the Pen of Pencil initiative, where they give children, men and women the opportunity to choose between education and salvation or the penitentiary. And he also spoke about combining salvation with the work that he does through his NGO. And he spoke about ways that NGOs and individuals can work together to be more successful at accomplishing the main goal, which is really to help those who are really vulnerable and most in need at this point in time. So today we have, like I mentioned earlier, Mr. Carlye Holder. He's a friend of the family, and he's the author of the book, Can Anything Good Come Out of Prison? But before we reach to that point, Mr. Carlye, tell us a little bit about your testimony. You're a Trinidadian, so according to the Trini slang, you're a Trini to the bone. So tell us a little bit about your experience growing up here in Trinidad and Tobago. What was your childhood like?
Yeah, well, I was born in Trinidad and raised in Port of Spain. My mom left when I was at the age of 12, and then my grandmother passed, and I started to rebel. I was kind of lost, and that's why I always encourage people, when young people are rebelling, we need to sometimes sit and try to find out really what was going on. I wasn't a bad kid, but I started seeing folks around me was leaving, and I didn't know how to handle it. So I started acting up in school, and then I was going to be benched, and I ran away, and I actually was homeless for a while in Trinidad. And I still don't recall how long, but I knew that I used to sleep under a building around the savannah, and I used to sell snow cone at the zoo, and went back home and went back home and came to the United States when I was 17, and God has been good. I served in the Marines and then served in the prison services there for 27 and a half years, and I've been retired. But the essence of that story is not for people to feel sorry that, we don't know. Our beginning doesn't tell us what our end is going to be. Sometimes when we go through difficulties and, we have people speak maybe negatively into our life, because I remember someone told me that I wasn't going to be anything. And I use that as a motivation and not a crutch, to show not only them, but the world, that if you work hard and you do the things that is necessary, that God is the ultimate decision maker of what is going to happen with your life. And I'm also, deeply grounded, with my Christian faith. I'm the treasurer of my church and on the board of trustees as well.
Nice. So you mentioned something key. You spoke about you rebelling. Would you say that the fact that your mom left and went to the States and the absence of your mother in your home brought about the rebellion to the point that it led you on the streets?
Well, I think what happened, not initially, it wasn't my mom, because we thought she had went away on vacation. But my grandmother passed 6 months later. And I think that was the deciding factor, because I was very close with my grandmom. And, to lose your mom, to lose the two individuals that closest to you, I felt like my grandmom was the reason that got me into that stage of rebelling, because I was lost. I didn't know what to do. And so I would say that, my grandmother really triggered the behavior.
So the absence of the grounded persons in your life, or the persons that made you feel grounded as a young child, is what caused the rebellion or brought about the rebellion.
Yes, because when you go from normalcy to abnormalcy, things happen, right? And I don't know if anybody really, was able to engage or have a conversation with me as a child, that, they just wanted you to just, get along and go along. And I always say, I make it I always do when I talk to young people, I always want to have a conversation with them to find out what's going on in their life, because I believe there's always something that triggers what young people are going through. And most of the times in the business of life, we don't take the opportunity to find out deep down what's happening to that young person.
Agreed. So before we continue, again, we want to say good night to all of our viewers. We want to thank you all for joining us. For those of you who just came in, we would like to encourage you to share the live, because the more persons it reach, the more effective we are with the live, and the more effective we are at accomplishing the purpose of educating persons on how they can be part of assisting those most vulnerable and those most in need in society, whether you are part of an NGO or you are just an individual desirous of information, desirous of education, and the ways in which you can go about to help these kind of individuals. This is the forum where we are discussing solutions to real problems and how we can be effective at ministry and at helping those most vulnerable. So as we go forward tonight, and we're speaking, as I said earlier, with Mr. Carlye Holder. He's the president of C.I. Holder Ministries and the author of the book, Can Anything Good Come Out of Prison? So, Mr. Carlye, you mentioned that, nobody could have had a conversation with you when you were at that point in life. It was hard to reach you emotionally, mentally. It was hard to communicate with you. So having come out from that place where you've experienced that as a child, what would you say now to an individual, because you would have the experience? So let's say, for instance, I'm trying to reach that type of individual who is now in the place where you once were. What advice would you give to our viewers if they are trying to reach individuals who now feel abandoned, who now feel that their sense of security has been taken away from them? How do we reach them? How do we minister to them? How do we help them? And how do we effectively touch their hearts?
Well, I must say that too. I want to give a shout out to my adopted brother, your brother, which makes you my adopted sister, Krishna Badeshi. He's been a dear friend and a brother to me for over almost 20 years or more. And I'm so happy about the work that you are doing to reach those people that are vulnerable and less fortunate. But I think today we even have greater challenges. Back when I was a young person, we didn't have social media and all these things that are happening in the world. So I think the challenge is for us to reach our young people. Yes, we can reach them through the social media, but I think there's so much that they're exposed to. That back in the day when I was in that position, that I never felt threatened, because I think in today's world, you have people that would take advantage of young people that are lost and looking for help. So I would encourage, I would always come. We have to reach them, like, we talk about the pen or pencil. We have to reach them, we have to reach them where they're at. I think a lot of times when we do this work, we work from where we are. I think we have to go down and reach them from where they at. What are their struggles? What are they dealing with? Maybe it's something at home that they maybe don't wanna talk about. And you have to build credibility, right? That's the one thing, right? They have to trust you. You got to build a sense of trust so they'll feel open and free to share with you maybe some of the deepest secrets that they encounter. And I know that I was doing some work in the middle school here, and all it took was somebody to sit down and spend time to find out, one of the kids wasn't doing well in school because they had to babysit in the morning before they go to school and babysit at night. So they didn't have time to do the schoolwork. So, there could be a variety of different things, but I would say is that to keep an open line of communication and listen to understand and not listen to hear. Because sometimes when young people talk to us, we think we have all the answers. And sometimes that's not the case. So I always try to, be quiet and just stay quiet and just hear and see if I can understand the true depths of their problem, which will allow me then to come up with the solution that I can best recommend, that can help them, break that cycle, whatever they're going through.
Agreed. I agree. Relationship and meeting persons at the point of their need is a great method or a great strategy for helping. We want to take this opportunity again to say good night. I see we have Joy. Danielle logged in with us. Good night to you and blessings. She's from Trinidad and Tobago, so blessings to you. And we also want to encourage persons on the live that are logged in. If you have questions directed at me or at Mr. Holder, you can comment it on Facebook. We would see it and we would respond to you at an appropriate time in the conversation. So again, we encourage our viewers to share the live. We really want to reach as much persons as possible to be part of this exciting and strategic way going forward with Queen Esther's Ministries, Trinidad and Tobago. So, Mr. Carlyle, we mentioned your book earlier. Can anything good come out of prison? What brought about you to write this book? What led you? What experience led you into writing the book? What encounters led you into writing the book? And how was the book inspired? What is the nature and the context of it in its entirety?
Well, by way of background, I began my career in the prison services here in the United States at the age of 22. And was fortunate enough to move up the rank pretty rapidly and became the youngest warden at the age of 38. And what I was given the charge of so many men and women that I was responsible for, and I started to see that people make bad choices, but they may not be bad people. And sometimes when we deal with the whole nature of criminal justice, we tend to prejudge and we tend to judge them in a negative way. And what I started to see was how people's lives was being transformed if we provide the right opportunity, which was a combination of accountability, spiritual awareness, engagement. And I saw what a difference that made. And obviously the book, I got inspired by the book after I retired, and I began to engage these individuals that what I consider was my sheep. Although I was a warden, I tell folks that what I thought was my job at the time, it really was my ministry. And I wanted the world to know that, like in John 1:4-6, right? That it doesn't mean that because you was in prison that you are bad or you cannot be transformed or you cannot be changed. So that's why I came out with the title, Can Any Good Thing Come Out of Prison? And we know that we all been touched. We have family members who have experienced that. And as in John 1:4-6, I was inspired. That inspired me because we know who came out, that was Jesus. And so I'm just believing that everybody, there's good in everybody. And that if we can find what it takes to trigger that reformation or that restoration, that in most cases, most people want to be good. Now, there's always going to be some that we may not be able to reach. But we shouldn't use the few that we cannot reach and try to label those that are really hurting and wanting the opportunity for restoration. and rehabilitation so they can become productive, citizens of their respective communities.
Nice. I mean, our lives as persons chatting here tonight on this series is a testimony that those who once felt that they didn't have a fighting chance, or those who once felt as though all odds were against them, can indeed make it with hard work, with God on your side. And the word of God tells us, if God before you, who can be against you? So once God is on your side, we know that all things are possible. So tonight, as we continue and we discuss, one of the main questions we want to ask, one of the main purpose of tonight's series also is for you to enlighten us a little bit about, because I know that you do a lot of ministry now that you are retired from being a warden. You have CI Holder Ministries, which is where I believe you still do work with men who came out of the prison system. Correct me if I'm right. And those who are still in need of guidance or mentorship, or in need of training or assistance to be able to move forward, to obtain employment and to start over. That's the work that you do through CI Holder Ministries. So I mean, for persons wanting to donate to NGOs, persons wanting to be part of that type of ministry, what is really needed to reach these type of individuals besides material things? Because we know, yes, you need food, you need clothing, you need shelter, but then it goes beyond that. There are some persons who need employment, who needs mental assistance. Tell us what, in your opinion, especially presently in the situation that we're all facing as a world, what is really needed for NGOs and ministries to be successful at helping?
Well, I think we are in difficult times. I think we have to accept the fact that the opportunity for people to support NGOs is not as in the past, because obviously we have folks that have been unemployed and may not have the financial capacity to support an NGO. But it's more to money than there's so much more we can do. We can offer mentoring, we can offer counseling, we can help with job training, or there's such a variety of things. I think sometimes when we talk about nonprofits, everybody think it's all about the money. Yes, money is necessary to buy some of the goods and if you want to provide food or whatever, but I think if you can volunteer, and maybe there's a special skill that you may have. Maybe you want to teach, as one of the issues they have is with education, or they don't have, the right type of employment skills that when they leave and they can, be re-enter society, they can get a job. Because I believe that's one of the most critical aspects of an individual leaving from prison and coming to our communities, is that if we can connect them to a job, I believe that begins a true opportunity for them to regain and become productive citizens. Because with that, they can feed themselves, they can take care of their families, they can take care of their living needs. So, and we know that's difficult because they come with a label, and that's why I like to use the thing that can any good thing come out of prison? Because I think in reality, most of us is either been touched or know someone that's close to us who has had an encounter with the criminal justice system for whatever ever reason. So I would say that there's so much work. Like they say, the work is plentiful, but the laborers are few. And NGOs like yourself and myself that's doing the work, sometimes people don't understand what it takes in order to continue to offer the services that you do and to reach the folks that are less fortunate or marginalized. So I applaud, and the fact that as a young person and a pastor that you decide to take on this mantle, because I can imagine that most NGOs are not formed by individuals such as yourself. So I'm proud of the fact that I've seen you growing up and the work that you're doing both spiritually as a pastor and now with your ministry. So I want to encourage those individuals that are listening that, if you can, to support the work, because the work is needed, and it's even needed more given the fact that we are in a pandemic and people, there's needs, there's people are tired of being locked up in houses, and they having, mental challenges, and they maybe need somebody to just talk through what is. I know sometimes I get frustrated with wearing the mask, and I have to, go find a place to just kind of get my mind together. So we have to think about all of the issues surrounding this pandemic and what is creating in our communities, our home, our church. Our churches can't get together. There's this disconnect. Everything is being done virtually. And I don't think it's meant to be that way, but it has to be that way until we can find the solutions.
So, God is good. Everything we do with Queen Esther's ministries has been directed and ordained directly by God. So I can't take any praise for it. But I'm not a pastor yet, but you're probably speaking into the future. You never know. Just a humble servant of God for now. But God is good. Nevertheless, we thank God for the work of the ministry, like you said. Before we move forward, there's just a couple of announcements we want to make in between. We've come across as an NGO one child who is presently in need of a device to write essay. He does not have a direct internet connection, so we're unable to provide him with something such as a desktop. However, he has Wi-Fi access, and so something like a tablet or a wireless electronic device would help, as he has 1 month again to prepare himself to write essay right here in Trinidad and Tobago. So we want to encourage our viewers, if you're interested in donating a device or donating financially towards purchasing a device for this young man, to please contact us at the number that's at the bottom of the screen. Additionally, Queen Esther's Ministry Trinidad and Tobago has taken it upon ourselves to do a second lockdown initiative, which entails giving grocery items to those who have lost jobs and who are really seeing hard times as a result of being out of employment. Several families, single-parent households with multiple children, has reached out to us through our phone number, through our Facebook page, and through our Instagram page, requesting assistance with grocery items. And so we have been receiving donations, but we're still in need of some items. So I want to urge you all to WhatsApp, call, message to the Facebook page, find a way how you can be part of this hamper drive so that we can put some food on the tables to these single parents and their children. And as we move along and we bring back with us Mr. Carlye Holder before, we close off this second series of Sit, Sip, and Chat, we have one more question for Mr. Carlye tonight. So, and that question would be, you went through a lot. You were homeless at one point, broken emotionally, mentally, financially, physically, I would imagine. And, it really takes a toll on persons mentally and emotionally who go through hard times. I can say from experience that when you go through certain things in life, it leaves you with a sense of brokenness, a sense of a void then in your life. How would you say transitioning out of those hard trials, did you, fill that void? How, in transitioning out from the brokenness and the hurt, what did you do as an individual and as a man? Because, we always hear persons talk and say we have single parents. So more than likely you hear the single parent being a mother. But, sometimes we also have men who go through hard times and who, the men are not the more verbal ones. Women are 90% of the time, I would say, women are more verbal and more expressive. So what would you say to viewers who are trying to reach men that are going through stuff? You know, let's think about our men for a second. They go through things as well. And seeing you being a male person, having gone through so many hardships, what advice would you give to somebody who's probably looking on, that's probably going through a hard time in life, or maybe a viewer who is trying to help a male person that's going through a hard time?
Well, I think it's good to get. I think it's good to have a good spiritual foundation. Right? I believe that you have to connect to something greater than yourself. Right. So I believe sometimes we depend on man, but we really should be dependent on a greater power, whoever that power may be. So I would say this, because men, find someone that you can confide in, and someone that you can just let it out, just what I would use the word be naked with, that if you share whatever is bothering you, that it's not going to be repeated, or because sometimes we just need somebody to listen, to hear, and to just, and I always try to, most of the folks that are close to me, we can have these conversations. And sometimes, you end up benefiting from trying to help someone with the same problem, because I would say that we have to create a sense that of trust, right? So the person can feel comfortable, because there's always going to be trust issues, because you don't know how much you want to share or how people will take it. So you have to create a relationship that person can feel comfortable about sharing whatever it is, and that know that you'll provide them with the right advice, and then you won't go out. So I think confidentiality is also an important aspect of the work that we do as NGOs, as people, pour out their hearts and they reach out for us. And some folks don't want to mention, don't want you to mention their names or whatever. And we have to respect that. So I think as men, we have to just create more opportunities. I do a lot of men groups. I think we got to encourage them, to get connected to something greater. I don't know, I do a group that's called Bridge Builders. It's trying to maybe bring in people that are less fortunate, that you can help them to find a path. So get them exposed to things that they haven't been exposed to. So I did basketball. That's how I had a basketball ministry. So I used to go and recruit those kids that for the first time when they travel with us, they had never left their neighborhood. So sometimes little things like that, where we may think it's a big thing, but to some people, they have never left the neighborhood that they grew up in. And when they see what the world really has to offer, whether it be Trinidad or in the US, you can transform minds, and you can give them encouragement that, listen, with hard work, right, you can accomplish anything, because it's not going to be easy. I think that's the one thing, even nothing that they don't get. I tell folks, you have to put in the work, right? Don't just be, want a handout, right? You want a handout, and it's going to require you to sacrifice and maybe do more than it would normally take in order for you to get where you're trying to go. So I believe that hard work always pays off, and I think that was my driving force. When every time I entered, I wanted to be the best, and I put in the work and the effort and the time in order to do that, and it did pay off.
Want to take this opportunity to say good night to my dear friend Donna Marie Julian. I see we have Cathy Monroe. She says good night, Mr. Holder, and also good night to you, Cathy, and good night to Donil. And thank you all for joining us tonight. We are also encouraging persons, like I said earlier, to share the live so that it touches the hearts of as many as possible. So earlier on, you mentioned about connecting to a source that's greater than just us. Something that we know we get our strength in or from, that isn't just man, because the word of God, and for me that source for me is Christ. Because there are many times and situations in my life that required me to hold on to God and not let go. And in the midst of those situations, it was trying to the point where, you break down and you don't know where things are going to come from, how it's going to work out. So, I mean, my encouragement, like you said, would be to connect to God, because like I said earlier, without God, nothing is possible, but with God, all things are possible. So, I would encourage persons, because I'm a believer in Christ Jesus. And I also think that, sometime later down in the series, we'd bring in somebody who is able to speak with us about the spiritual aspects of breaking chains in your lives. Because as we speak about challenges and different topics, and I don't know, Mr. Carlyle, you could probably input your thoughts as we go along. For instance, they say when you grow up in an abusive home, the women tend to gravitate towards abusive men without even realizing that that's the type that they are gravitating toward. And so it's like a cycle that gets repeated because they've seen the mother go through it. And so now they gravitate towards that kind of individuals. And so maybe it'll be a good thing, not maybe, it would be a good thing to bring on somebody who could speak with us about the spiritual side of it and breaking chains and generational curses and cycles. I mean, what are your views on that?
Well, I think I had my own struggles with that. As I was, as I became adult, I would never confront issues. My quickest response was to go away, just quit and move on, because that's what I that's something that I experienced. So when I got married, I decided that I was going to fight for my family, and it takes hard work, because it's easy to walk away, right? Then that's an experience, because remember, I started with people leaving my life from at a young age. So I had to actually work on it. So what I would say is that when we know what are our trials and our tribulations, we have to then fight towards it. We have to say, no, Satan, I'm not going to let you into that space in my life. And sometimes it's easier said than done. So right, we all are circumstances of our environment, our past experiences. So sometimes we gravitate to those things. So when we become adults, we have to now recognize them, and we got to fight when we want to go back there, or we want to gravitate that we know it's not good for us. We just have to continue to fight and say that, you know what, I'm not going to do that. Or maybe you may have to seek, some professional help in some instances in order to even break those cycles or break those, what you would say, curses in our life, because we all have them. There is no perfect person. That's one of the things I like about my son's church, that they say there's no perfect person, right? So we all are working towards perfection, right? And so sometimes in religion we tend to act like like we're perfect. But really, there's no perfect, God is working on all of us. Some of us are much stronger in our faith, and some of us are less stronger. But I think that everybody has an opportunity to enter that same door, right? Of forgiveness, redemption, restoration, and those kinds of things. So I would say that as you mentioned that, try to identify those things that you don't want to do and work towards it. It's not going to go away unless you deliberately make an effort to say, when it comes up, I'm not going to do it.
Got it. So, we want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. Time is valuable. And you gave of your time tonight. I know that you've been traveling for work, and that you do, a lot of work with rehabilitation in prisons, both here in Trinidad and Tobago and throughout the Caribbean. So you're a busy man. But we want to take this opportunity on behalf of all the members of Queen Esther's Ministries, Trinidad and Tobago, to express our gratitude to you for taking the time to share with us and to edify us on what we can do different, what we can do more of, what we can do better. So thank you so much for joining us, and we do wish you all the best with CI Holder Ministries, and we look forward to doing even more work with you in the future. So we will talk more as time goes by.
Yeah, let me apologize that I wasn't able to get this on my face. I was technically challenged tonight. I was hoping, I know there was folks was trying to get to me and say, how can they get onto the interview? And I wasn't able to share it live, but hopefully they'll get an opportunity to see the recorded version. I want to thank you for the work that you're doing for the least of those of us, because the Bible says what you've done for the least of those of us, you have done it unto me. So it was my privilege and honor to be the second guest in this series. And I thank you, and God bless you, and God bless your ministry.
Thank you. And thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Carlye, before you go, we have one question for you that is posed to you. The viewer would like to know, is it possible for you to give us an example of what you do in terms of rehabilitation of prisoners? So I think that's a really nice question.
Well, what I do, my ministry, I allow folks and their families that coming out of prison to reach us for help. And most of the folks that I spend my time with is the folks that was incarcerated during my time working. So I offer them job training, I offer them counseling. We have a big picnic that I bring them, and they come and we do a restoration service, we do job training. So it's not one specific thing, because as you know, everybody comes with different needs. So
Yes.
So if I can't do it, I have, because of my network, I can refer them to individuals that, even if it's something that I don't offer, I can refer them to an NGO that will be able to provide their services. So I get the opportunity to speak and travel, nationally and internationally, to talk about prison reform and rehabilitation and so forth. So I think there's a lot of work in that area, and so I don't know if I answered that question, but they can go to my website at ciholderministries.com, and they can learn more about the work of the ministry if they want to do more. I know this wouldn't allow us enough time to maybe get into more depth, but if they want, they can reach me on my website as well. And they can also, view my, obtain a copy of my book from the website.
I'm not sure how much information you would be at liberty to discuss presently, because it's your career that I'm entering into discussing, and I know that that's a bit of tricky ground to talk about because of the field that you do it. But I know you also do prison rehabilitation inside prisons for different governments of different countries. What are some of the things that governments have in place in terms of rehabilitation? Because that would be nice for viewers to hear.
Well, I think my what I'm trying to do is transfer my experiences in having been the one of the largest federal prison in the United States, co-managed the largest federal prison in the United States, where I had 8,500 men and women that I served. So I think the experience and the success that I have, I believe that I have an obligation, particularly as someone with Caribbean roots, to help and help to share those things that I learned, that I know that works with my Caribbean brothers and sisters in the criminal justice system. And I've done so, as you mentioned, that I do work in Trinidad, Guyana, Jamaica. I'm doing a lot of work in the Virgin Islands, just about managing the right way and affording people the opportunity for true rehabilitation. Because we can't treat them like animals and then want them to come out rehabilitated. It requires a process of mutual respect, where they are treated like human beings and not like animals. And as you know, in the Caribbean, most of our prison services is based on retribution. and not rehabilitation. So
Yeah.
it takes a while for the employees to, understand that these are human beings and they're not objects. And prison is not for punishment; it's for rehabilitation. So it's a matter of spreading the word, restorative justice and all these kind of technical things we can talk about transforming. But at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to give them a fighting chance. We want to, the rehabilitation starts the first day that they leave, and not when they come to our prisons, and not when they leave. So it'll continue when they leave, and hopefully they wouldn't come back into our prisons.
I guess that would be the ultimate goal, to have them not come back. But it's also hard for persons, and I think that that's something that not just us here in Trinidad and Tobago as a people. I'll just pause to say goodnight to Carlye Holder. And like I was saying, people who have been a victim of those that end up in the prison system, it's hard for them to forgive. And I think that this is where our relationship with God comes in. Because, the word of God tells us we ought to forgive others, even as we ask God to forgive us. And forgiveness is something that is hard for persons to do on their own. You can't forgive somebody without God in your life. And I'm telling you this from experience. I mean, as a young woman, I think I have too many experiences in a lot of areas. However, I mean, it wasn't until recently that I learned to forgive persons that hurt me. And without being able to forgive these persons, then the rehabilitation process really isn't effective, because then we see them in a certain light and we treat them in a certain way. And for them, if they aren't given the right support, it can trigger something else yet again or another time. So like you would have mentioned, a lot of factors go around making these things a success, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially, but again, Mr. Carlyle, we want to say goodbye yet again, but thank you so much for the information, for the education, and thank you, for taking the time to talk with us and to chat with us. We really, really look forward to working with you, because we have some more things to discuss that's promising for both ministries, and we will let our viewers know more about it later down in the series. So we want to say thank you so much for coming on board with us tonight, and we give our regards to your wife for giving you the time to be with us tonight.
Thank you, Esther, and again, congratulations, and continue to do the great work you're doing.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we close off tonight's series, yes, we want to say thank you. It's not too late. You can still share the series. And next week, on the third series of Sit, Sip, and Chat right here on Queen Esther's Ministries, Trinidad and Tobago, we have no other than a local gospel artist, a local musician, a local talented young man who has a passion for God, who has a wonderful ministry and of singing and gospel, no other than Jaron Moose. And he is excited to be here with us next week. Let's take a look at what he has to say.
I've apologized for that. No day, no time is about sit and chat with your host Esther. This is Jaron News, the original Jesus Youth, and I'm excited about June the 4th. Yeah, it's all about lifting up the name of Jesus. Call for a time like this with Mrs. Esther Bedisi. Blessings.
Up the name of Jesus, like Jaron said, and he has a powerful testimony. God has done a great work in this young man's life, and he's going to come and he's going to share a little bit about us, with us, about how he grew up as a young man and how he fought his way through to becoming a successful young man in Christ. So we're encouraging our viewers, stay tuned to our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel for those of you who would like to share it with family and friends that are not on Facebook. It'll be uploaded shortly to our YouTube page, and follow us on Instagram at Queen Esther Ministries TT. God bless you richly and have a wonderful night. It was a pleasure being here with you tonight.